Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
As anyone who has ever lived or carpooled with me knows, it takes me a very long time to get ready for my day. At first, I tried setting multiple alarms, including one set for about 5 minutes before I have to leave the house. I've also prepared lunch for the next day. I've set coffee to run automatically in the morning, but no matter what, when that 5-minute timer goes off, my brain suddenly floods with countless small tasks that I'd like to accomplish before leaving my apartment. I eat a quick breakfast, I wash the dishes, for some reason I reorganize my sock drawer, and then I compile an entire playlist on Spotify. Then, when I'm already running late, I remember to brush my teeth. So, I know what you're thinking, and yes, apparently that's called attention deficit disorder. And it's rather common. But if we frame this a bit more philosophically, it seems to me that when I'm getting ready, there's just always more to be done. I could get stuck inside my apartment all day just preparing to leave. And it's a familiar feeling that we could prepare our entire lives for something only to find that we're still not ready when it happens. So then, what does it look like to effectively prepare? What does it feel like to be prepared? Do we ever truly feel ready? As you have heard, tonight begins the month of Elul, which in Rabbinic parlance translates roughly to, uh-oh, the high holidays are coming. The final chapter in year 5785 of our story is just a half-page turn away. And that final chapter, titled Elul, is all about reflecting on the past and preparing for the next chapter. Reflecting on the lives we've built and the mistakes we've learned from, and preparing for the 10 days of awe. Reflection, preparation, and then it's over. That's it. That's the end of 5785. Okay, so I've oversimplified Elul a bit. It is considered a month of preparation for the high holidays, and our tradition does provide us with many concrete examples of what effective preparation looks like. Sephardi and Mizrahi communities recite the slichot, the penitential prayers, every morning in Elul, and Ashkenazi communities begin slichot on the Sunday preceding the New Year. We blow the shofar at the end of every week, at the end of weekday morning services, to herald the approaching days of judgment. And on an individual level, we customarily increase our efforts at teshuvah, of repairing and returning ourselves to moral, ethical righteousness by acknowledging our mistakes, making different choices, and recommitting ourselves to healthy relationships. In the words of the 19th century Musar work, Or Yisrael, Uvechol v'china ktana shebaktanot, asher yachin ha'adam et atzmo lehagdil b'chinat yom ha'kippurim shalo, ein aroch ve'ein dei ba'er hatzlachat nafsho. With every introspection, even the smallest of contemplations, that allows a person to prepare themselves for Yom Kippur, their soul prospers beyond measure and beyond words. That is the work of Elul, the kind of introspection that we are expected to pursue as we prepare for the new year. But it still strikes me as interesting that 5785, like every Jewish year, ends with us preparing. Now, of course, it is a powerful preparation, a challenging month of hard work, but when 5785 comes to a close, does all that prep work necessarily mean that we will feel ready for the next chapter? The idea of ending in a state of preparation should come as no surprise to us, since our most precious text itself ends with us preparing to enter the land. The entire book of Deuteronomy, arguably all of the laws that we received and the lessons we learned since our exodus from Egypt, are to prepare the people of Israel to build a just and righteous society of their own. This week's Torah portion, Parshat Re'eh, is no different. It finds our people very explicitly preparing to enter the land. In addition to Moses continuing to push a rather aggressive agenda of conquest and settlement, we also learn that God will choose a place to dwell amongst us. Spoiler alert, it ends up being Jerusalem. And you guessed it, we are not ready for that. Not even when we cross into the land, a moment that we've dreamt of for 40 years in the wilderness, and the resolution of a redemption narrative that was centuries in the making. Still, no, we will not be ready. Here's what it says, Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 10 and 11. V'avartem et hayarden, v'shavtem ba'aretz asher Adonai Elohechem manchil etchem, v'hiniach lachem mikol oivechem misaviv, v'shavtem betach. When you cross the Jordan and you inhabit the land that Adonai your God is allotting to you, and God grants you safety from all your enemies around you, and you live in security. V'haya hamakom asher yivchar Adonai Elohechem bo leshaken shmo sham. Then the Lord your God will choose the place wherein God's name will dwell. Now, the translation that I just provided you is accurate, but it overlooks the emotional experience that some of the words imply. So, v'hiniach lachem, v'shavtem betach, those do imply safety from our enemies. But they are also terms that connote an experience, a feeling of rest, of comfort, of assurance. We are preparing to enter the land, but we are not prepared to dwell with the divine. The verses imply that we won't be ready, God won't be ready to choose a dwelling place until we feel at ease where we are. And Rashi clarifies, Ein zo ela bimei David, that this condition of collective content was only satisfied much later, in the time of King David. So these verses depict how the cycle of preparation continues even beyond the 5 books of Torah, as well as how feeling prepared might relate to feeling content. A few more weeks of reading Deuteronomy, and then, just like the calendar year, the 5 books of Moses end. What are the people of Israel doing when the story ends? Preparing. In both cases, the long-sought moment of redemption belongs to the next year, the next book. In the meantime, we are left standing at the precipice, glimpsing redemption just across the way, almost within reach. As the new year approaches and our wilderness narrative comes to a close, I too find myself approaching my own sort of precipice. 2 days from now, I enter the penultimate year of rabbinical school. 2 years from now, God willing and deans consenting, I enter the rabbinate. So in the spirit of the season, I come to you with a confession of self-doubt. A few months ago, I attended my 10th college reunion. And I recall, as an undergraduate, seeing those 10th reunion alumni with their spouses and their children and their dad bods, and assuming that that's what it looks like when you've got life figured out. And this past May, I reconnected with many friends just like that, with careers and families of their own, feeling content. And I just thought I'd be there by now. The pages of the book keep turning, but I still feel like I'm stuck in the introduction. And to be honest, I'm worried that someday I'll look up and I'll realize that I'm running out of pages, but I'm still waiting for the plot to begin. I've spent all of this time preparing, studying, reflecting, and growing. And some of the time I do feel ready for the next stage of my life, only to be reminded of the years of preparation that I have left. But often, when that next step is approaching, I get so worried about being unprepared that it actually paralyzes me from taking that necessary next step, seizing that opportunity, turning the page, and beginning a new chapter. This paralysis ends up resembling procrastination, as I complete unrelated tasks that help me to feel productive, but help me avoid confronting my feelings of unpreparedness. And so I see my friends publishing books, recording music, starting businesses, getting married, having children, feeling settled. And I wonder if there's a step I didn't take. If in all of that time, there were certain opportunities that I passed up. Part of me so deeply wishes that I could just be a finished product. But I know that's silly, of course. It's completely illusory. None of us is ever a finished product, and we may always feel unprepared to some extent. I draw upon the wisdom of process theology, illustrated exquisitely through the lens of our own Rabbi Artson, that we are all in the endless process of becoming, feeling the incessant, the divine tug toward our higher selves. Even God is becoming. More than that, God is becoming. God is the process of becoming and the lure toward self-actualization. We are constantly developing, constantly preparing, and by actively participating in that process, we glimpse the divine. Yes, this process of becoming is a beautiful concept, but it's also often a very uncomfortable experience. Constantly working to improve and to grow, while rarely, if ever, feeling ready for what life has in store. Now, at this point in the sermon, you're probably thinking that it's about time I quote the aptly named masterwork, This Is Real, and You're Completely Unprepared, by Rabbi Alan Liu. Well, you're right, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. In one of his many vignettes about unpreparedness, Rabbi Liu tells the story of the Baal Shem Tov, who held a competition every year to see who would blow shofar for him on Rosh Hashanah. Not only did the shofar blower need to be excellent, they needed to memorize a series of kavanot, of intentions. They needed to contemplate these in order to properly direct the shofar blasts. One eager man practiced and practiced, and when he arrived before the Baal Shem Tov, he realized that nothing he had done had prepared him for the gravity of this experience. So he froze. He forgot everything. And when he realized how egregiously, how utterly he had failed this great test, his heart broke in two, and he began to weep, his shoulders heaving and his whole body racking as he wept. The Baal Shem Tov hired him on the spot. What? But I failed so miserably. But the Baal Shem Tov responded, in the palace of the king, there are many secret chambers. And there are secret keys for each secret chamber. But there is a master key that opens them all. That king is God. The palace is the divine presence. And the master key is a broken heart. The heart of a person who has done everything they could, but who still feels insufficient. As it says in Psalms, God is close to the brokenhearted. The master key is a broken heart. We are constantly becoming, constantly preparing, and we may never feel ready. And that is terrifying, even paralyzing. But at some point, we have to take the next step, knowing that there's always more that could have been done. So we accept ourselves, our ever-preparing, never-ready selves. And we continue in our efforts to grow and self-improve. God will witness our broken hearts, as you have also graciously witnessed mine. Wondrously and woefully unprepared, we turn the page to begin a new chapter. Shabbat Shalom.